use what's yours on this earth, dear Lord, that it will help us in all that we do, Jesus. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Good afternoon. Not off the top of my head, I don't. I know what you're talking about. Praise the Lord. Huh? Oh, this is my hand, but she's supposed to go first, right? Oh, you fine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. You come up here. Yeah, they doing it on YouTube. Yeah.
Oh, you're YouTube. Got it. Okay, awesome. All right, so good evening, everyone. My name is Denise Simpson. I am a native of Louisiana, so born and raised Shreveport, Louisiana. This is my second home. I have been here since 1990. Married to my husband, Dennis Simpson, we'll be celebrating 39 years this year in June. I know we got married when we was 2 and 3. Okay. He's a truck driver or no carriers, but we also do this business together called Greensport Financials. And so I got a chance to meet Ms. Dunlap through one of my team members, which is Michelle Waller. She works at the hospital, and so she's already meeting people. And so because she works full-time and then I'm full-time in the business, she's able to send people to me so that I can be able to help. So this is how I ended up being here today. So some of the things that I want to talk about is some things that are dear to my heart because my background is I have 26 years of state government, so I worked at different places, Department of Education, Department of Revenue, Department of Health, which was the last place that I worked. Working for state government, I was on the track. Well, first of all, are there any state workers in here? No state workers? Okay. So, but you probably, do you know a state, okay. So were you a state worker? Okay, you know a state worker? Okay. So let me just tell you, the track that I was on was this, I remember, everybody's on that 30-year track. Get to your 30 years, get to your 30 years, okay? Once you get your 30 years, then, hey, you made it, okay? And then that's what we all believe until it happens and you find out, wait a minute, I missed some stuff. Because once you retire, you find out, wait a minute, I don't have enough money. I'm getting pension, from the state, and I'm also getting, Social Security, and that's if you are 62, right. You get the Social Security. But what I find is a lot of people retire and they're not eligible for Social Security, so all they got is pension, but they have 30 years or 30 plus years. So they go and retire, and what I found was, I'm watching them. I remember us going in the break room. Oh, I'm so tired. finally, when they finally retire, you know, we be jealous, but they've been retired, and we be happy for them, you know. And then we find out, wait a minute, didn't you just retire 2 years ago? And then you find out they back at the,
they can't make
they back working. Well, what happened? You know, and I kept seeing that happening with my colleagues. And I'm like, wait a minute, something ain't right, because when I retire, I ain't coming back. All this hard, I ain't coming back. So what I found was that they were retiring, but because, let's say, for example, you have $3,000 that you're getting from your pension, okay? If you're a state worker, you're going to pay $800 for COBRA, that's your health insurance. Then you're going to pay taxes, you know, out of the money from your retirement. Then what do you have left over? About $2,000, okay? $2,000 in this day and time is hard to live off of for the rest of your life. You got cost of living increase, like right now, what is gas? $3.70, 70-some cents, right? Okay? How much is bread? How much is eggs? How much? So what we're saying is that the cost of living keeps increasing, but the money that you're getting from your retirement is not enough to sustain you. So even if you're getting Social Security and your pension, because when you get Social Security, they have to make sure you're within a certain threshold, otherwise they'll cut back your Social Security. All right? So I'm like, okay, so when I retire, you know, I don't want to go back to work, and I don't want to be limited to $28,000 a year. I want to have money because if I want to travel, I want to do that. So what am I going to do? And so this is when I believe God put this opportunity in my lap, and that is to become, you know, a financial, I would say, I'm in financial services, okay? So I would say a coach. I'm a financial coach, all right? I don't like to say advisor, but I'm a financial coach. And so I'm like, have you ever just felt like, God, I know you want to get some money to me. I know you want me to have money. And that was me. I know I'm supposed to have money and a lot of money because I know I'm a pass-through, I'm a bridge, I'm going to be helping people. And I need to know, you know, why am I not there? And I believe God was saying to me, hey, but you don't have the knowledge. You know, we know in Scripture it says, my people perish for what? A lack of knowledge. So the same thing, like if you won the lottery, and I know we don't play the lottery because we go to church, but if we won the lottery, trust me, they would want you to bring that money here for tithe, okay? But if you did do that, and then, or if you inherited a lump sum of money from a relative, would you know what to do with it? When I ask the question, what do you do with it? A lot of people say, hey, you know, I will put it in the bank. That's the first thing they say. And my first response is, why? Why would you go do that? Who's heard about the news about Silicon Valley, the bank, where we think money, you know, that's a prestigious bank where high-end people put their money in there. And a lot of people, we know that the banks will insure you up to $250,000. There were a lot of high-end people that had more than $250,000 in their bank. Right now, it's under federal rule to try to sort out everything because people's money is tied up. So I used to think the bank was the safest place, but it is not, because during this pandemic and also during this economic decline, banks are failing. And so we see banks are failing. We see where we have our monies in these different marketing instruments, whether we have it in stocks or bonds or whatever. All last year, the market dropped. And so the rule is that if your market has dropped at least 2 consecutive quarters, you are officially in recession. Well, guess what? It fell all last year. It's still falling right now. And we're still feeling some of the hemorrhaging from that. And so my question is to people, is like, do you see the handwriting on the wall, and what are you doing about it? Because we cannot take the ostrich approach. And that is just put my head in the sand, I keep doing what I'm doing and thinking it's not going to affect you, because it will affect you. If not, it's going to affect your kids. So I remember, my father passed when I was in the 9th grade. I think I was 14 years old. He passed away. He didn't leave me no money. Shame on me.
I know what you mean.
Daddy's girl, you leave no money. Okay, my grandparents, the ones that raised me, guess what? They didn't leave me no money. All right, so I said that has to stop. I have kids, I have grandkids. I have 6 beautiful grandkids, and I'm like, I gotta leave something for my grandkids. You have your kids, and you be like, go do this, and something like that. No. But then when you get grandkids, you be like, oh, come on, baby, come on to grandma. And then the kids wonder what's wrong. Mama, you ain't talk to us like that. Well, this got a grandbaby. Right. I can spoil them and send them on back to you, and you got to deal with them. So, but the thing about it is, I want to leave a legacy for my kids. Amen. I don't want my kids to have to deal with the same things. Now, am I against them going through a struggle? No, because I believe you learn a lot when you go through a struggle, okay? But what I want them to do is I have money. So what I learned is the best way to grow money is through the insurance, okay? Now, you might be saying, like, what do you mean by insurance? So let's So when we think about insurance, a lot of times our mindset is that insurance is something to get to bury you when you die. Who's ever thought about that? That's what insurance is about. Okay, I did too. I'm like, this is why a lot of people don't like to talk about insurance, because think about death. I don't want to think about death. I ain't finna die no time soon. You know, but people need to have insurance. Matter of fact, I was just in a training just a minute ago, and one of our trainers showed where right over here in Gaston County, there's a GoFundMe to take care of a person that just accidentally died in a car accident. And so it's like we know we're gonna die, right?
Right.
We do know we're gonna die, right? We're gonna live forever. Okay, we're gonna be raptured. Either way, we're leaving this earthly body, okay? So whether we're raptured or whether we die, we know we're gonna leave. You know, at least if you're raptured, you ain't gotta worry about, needing the insurance. But in most cases, we're gonna pass away. And so the question is, what are we gonna do? Do we have a family? Do we have kids? Do we have grandkids? Do you have a spouse? What is gonna happen with that surviving spouse? Now, regardless of what your age, if you still have a mortgage or if you still have debt or you still have something, that's gonna be left to somebody. Okay? All right? And then, yes.
Is this somewhere on your PowerPoint?
No, I'm just gonna talk.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna talk. Don't worry about it. I'm just gonna talk. Yeah. So this is why I'm like, okay, let me come into this insurance because I've already had loved ones pass away and I had to come out of my pocket. Now I'm, a little frugal. I like to buy nice things. I want to use my money the way I want to use it. I like giving, but I don't want to be giving to that when I can help you with life insurance. And so one of the things I told my kids is like, listen, I'm getting insurance on all y'all. Because y'all ain't finna have me out there and y'all pass away and then I got to come out of my pocket and now I'm mad and I'm grieving. I don't want to be both. I'm going to be grieving, but I don't want to be mad and grieving. So, when I came into this business, I learned how money worked. I didn't understand how money worked. There's three ways that money grows. Money grows fixed, variable, and indexed. Now this is the part where I wish I did have a slide. Okay. Mr. In the back. On that presentation, can you find the slide that shows three lines, one red, one green, one blue? Just kind of scroll through those and just pull up that slide. I'll talk about that one. It's in one of those slides. It looks like it's a diagram that has a line like a, do I need to come back and show you real quick? No, not that one. Keep going through. It's gonna be a green line, blue line. It's gonna show like on a chart. Yeah, graph. Thank you. That's the word. So if you can show that picture, that'll be good. Yeah. Can y'all give him a round of applause? Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. Now, can you zoom in and make it a little bit bigger for those in the back? Because I know they strain their eyes. I'm trying to see it. Just see if you can make it bigger. Zoom it in. Okay. So now there's three ways that money grows. Okay. It grows fixed, variable, and indexed. All right. Mm-hmm. So now, if you put your money in the blue line, in the bank, that's the blue line. Okay. Notice it's just a straight line. You're not gonna lose money. But look at the gap between the blue and the green. You're not gonna gain that much money. You know why? Because in the bank, your money you're only gonna earn 0 to 3%.
Right.
I remember, was it Regent? A bank sent me a card in the mail, and they say, hey, we'll give you a $200 gift card if you put your money in our bank. And then I looked at what the interest rate that my money's going to be growing by, and it says 0.01%. Can somebody calculate 0.01% and just put down $50,000? I mean, how much is that? Is that $5? I don't even think that's $5. Is that 50 cents? Is it $5? It's 0.01%. So what I'm saying is that the bank is not going to give you that much return on your money. This is why when you put the money in the bank, you don't get a 1098 form at how much? $5. So you're not going to get, okay, $5. Wait a minute, not only that, you're going to send me a 1098 and I got to file that $5 on my taxes. And that probably going to make my tax rate go up.
It go up.
So why would I go, see, so I'm telling you, the bank is actually like a tax now. If you earn market goes down and we lose money, we don't like it then, right? Now, imagine, here I was, 2008, working with the state. I had my money in deferred comp, putting in money in there really religiously because I'm like, I didn't have the financial knowledge that I have right now about money. So I was putting my money in the deferred comp, and in 2008, how many know, did anybody lose money drastically in 2008 other than me? Okay? I lost a lot of money in 2000. It didn't feel good, did it?
I didn't lose a whole lot, but I didn't lose a whole lot.
I lost a whole lot, okay? Because this is where I'm putting my money in for investment. So think about it. I have money coming out of my little check with the state, going into, and then when I done lost money, you see where that red line go below the blue line? That means not only did I lose compound interest, now I done lost the money that I done put in, okay?
Right.
So I lost money a lot in 2008 because I didn't know where to put it. I thought that was the best place to put it. Because a lot of people think that putting their money in the stock market, and that's what the rich do. But that is not where the rich put their money. The rich uses private investments, and they use insurance. And then let me just tell you something else you might not know. Now, in the blue line, where you're putting your money in the bank, you know where the bank is putting your money? Is there anybody that use social media? Anybody on social media? Okay. Y'all, anybody saw that clip of Soulja Boy? I don't know these folks, but I just happened to see it. Soulja Boy, I think it was his name. He went to the bank to get $30,000 out of the bank, and the bank said, "I'm sorry, we don't have your money." And he's like, "Wait a minute, what you mean you don't have my money? It shows a balance. Why can't I withdraw my money?" See, when you make a deposit in the bank, if you got an inheritance, somebody passed away, you got money, a lump sum of money, and you put it in the bank is not going to let it just sit there. They're going to go and invest it in insurance. They're investing your money in insurance. This is why it's called fractional banking. This means that you may have $100,000 that it looks like that's on the roll, on their listing that shows us how much you have in your account. But you cannot go and withdraw that lump sum amount out of that because they're not going to keep that kind of money in the bank. They're going to go and put it and invest your money, make a lot of interest off of it, but give you 0 to 3%. Does that make sense? All right? So now let me talk about the green line. The green line, a lot of people are not aware of that one. This is the one that's called index. Has anybody heard of the index before? Index fund? So this is how the index works. Yeah, you know about it, Evan. All right, the way the index fund works is this. It operates like the market, but it is not in the market. So what happens is that when the market goes up, you earn money, but when the market goes down, your money stays the same, or you're earning at least 1%. And the reason why is because there's bonds. There are different companies that have this index fund where they have bonds, and so if there's any drop in the market, they're taking the hit. Whereas if you have your money in the stock market and you're using the red line, you take the hit. Does that make sense? So when it's growing by the red line, you take the hit. If it's growing by the green line, the company takes the hit and your money is safe.
Right.
All right? Now let me talk about a few products that we use with the index. One of them is insurance. You can grow money through insurance. Another one is indexed annuity. You can grow money through that as well. So now let's talk a little bit about insurance, okay? There are two types of insurance. There's permanent and there's term, okay? There are some companies that say, buy term and invest the rest. But what we're finding is a lot of people don't invest the rest. And so they buy the cheap insurance, $25, $30, but I can get all this coverage. Like especially these young people, they love having $1 million worth of coverage. I only pay like $50, $60 a month for $100,000 worth of coverage. $1 million worth of coverage, okay? But then if you Google, what is the percentage of term policies that pay out? If you Google that, you'll see that only 98% of term policies never pay out. So then it makes me say, okay, well, why do I get term insurance? Well, term insurance, there's a purpose for it. The reason why you get term insurance is that if you have a mortgage, if you need money for children's education, you got debt, and you want to make sure if something happens to you where you pass away prematurely, that your family is getting something, that's why you get term. You get term to supplement a permanent policy. You don't just get term by itself unless you really don't have a lot of money, but you need coverage, but you don't have a lot. And so some of the policies that we offer, you can convert that term policy to a permanent policy later. Like you get the term policy, you might get it for 10, 15, 20 years. I wouldn't recommend going over 10 years. But you can convert it to a permanent insurance. And then we even have policies where if you got a term insurance, especially if you're under 45, if you outlive the policy, we have something called a return of premium, where they will give you all your money back. Has anybody ever heard of something like that? Okay?
Yeah.
So you have, well, especially you're from the service, so you should know, right? All right, so return of premium, but you don't hear a lot of people talk about that. But if you get term, get that kind of term. So if you didn't use it, didn't need it, at least you outlived the policy, at least you got your money back. You see what I'm saying? All right, so term does have its place. Like if you really don't have a lot of money, but you need insurance for your children, your whole family, go term, but don't stay term, okay? That's the first thing. The second thing I would say is that the second type of insurance is permanent insurance. Now, most of us know about a whole life policy.
Right.
Is that correct? Everybody know whole life? Okay. Because usually when I talk to people, they say, they want some insurance. Oh, what kind of insurance? I want that whole life, okay? Now, whole life back in the day was good insurance because that was before universal life came out and index universal life policy. So the way the whole life policy works is that you can get coverage, but I will say that a lot of people that I know that have whole life coverage, they don't have a lot of coverage. Like it's probably around $50,000, maybe the max that I've seen. Some that I like from back home, Louisiana, they have $25,000 or $30,000 in coverage, and I'm like, how do you feel comfortable with that? I mean, that may take care of your burial. I mean, have you buried anybody lately? I mean, it's expensive to bury people now, do a funeral. You're going to spend at least $12,000. $12,000 of that $20,000, $25,000, or $12,000 of that $30,000. That's not leaving enough money to your family. So we want to be legacy builders, so we need to know where to put our money and how do we get the biggest bang for the buck. So now, why didn't I bring my flip chart? Could have wrote some stuff, okay? All right, so now, I'm gonna talk about two types of permanent policies. First one is whole life, okay? Let's say you have $100,000 in coverage for whole life policy. It does allow you to build cash value, okay? You can borrow money from that cash value if you want to. And let's say in this example, you have $100,000 worth of coverage, you got $10,000 in cash value, you borrow $5,000. Something happens and you pass away and you didn't pay that $5,000 back. Let me tell you how much money you're going to get, you lease your beneficiary. How many of y'all think that the beneficiary is still going to get $100,000 worth of coverage? That the payout's going to be $100,000? Okay, it's not. Right. Okay, good. All right. How many of y'all think it's going to be $95,000? Okay, very good. So what the insurance company does with a whole life policy is if you borrowed $5,000 and you had $100,000 worth of coverage, they will subtract that $5,000 from your whole life policy or your face amount, your benefit amount, and then your beneficiary will only get $95,000, right? But then what happened to the other $5,000 that's in the cash value? You mean, wait a minute, it was $10,000, I only borrowed $5,000, where my other $5,000? That $5,000 is going back to the insurance company because the cash value that's built in that insurance policy is never meant to go to you, the client. It's really meant to offset any cost or any payout that an insurance company has to pay. So that cash value, you can only use it while you're alive. Once you pass away, the cash value goes back to the insurance company. Now your beneficiary gets the face amount, and that's assuming that you didn't borrow any money. But if you borrow money, whatever you borrowed and did not pay back will be subtracted from your whole life policy. Does it make sense? Okay, cool. All right, now let me tell you about a product that we have, because one of our carriers that we have is called National Life Group. Phenomenal company, A+ rating. They have something called, and they're not the only company, but that's just one of the companies that we have a number of companies that actually have this Indexed Universal Life. But let me tell you about something called an Indexed Universal Life Policy. Okay, you guys, if you're taking notes, write that down. Indexed Universal Life Policy. It's also known as a LIRP. Has anybody heard of the word LIRP? Okay, the LIRP stands for Life Insurance Retirement Plan. That's what LIRP stands for. A lot of people did not know that they can use an insurance policy as a retirement plan. Anybody knew that? Do you know if somebody told me that 20 years, I would not be standing here. I'd probably be, on the beach somewhere, asking somebody, hey, I need some water, I'm parched, That's where I'd be. Because if I had known what I know now, oh my God, I'd be dangerous. I mean, because all this time, I'm putting my money in the stock market not knowing that that's not where the rich put their money at, okay? So let me tell you how an index universal life policy works, okay? The index universal life policy works similar to whole life policy in that it is a permanent policy, okay? And then when I say permanent, a lot of times you need to make sure that it's going to outlast you, because sometimes you get a permanent policy and find out you're insured to age 85, and that's what happened to some people during the pandemic. They went and looked at their policies and found out, because a lot of people don't read their policies, and they find that they're only insured until age 85, and then now you've outlived the policy thinking you still got insurance, and now you don't. So if you have insurance, make a note, go read your policy. Go make sure that you're not going to outlive your policy. So generally when I write a policy, I try to make sure that it's going to be up to 120 years, because I don't know anybody living 120 years, but the policies that we offer don't expire. You know, it depends on how you write it. So with the index universal life policy, I'm going to use that same example of $100,000. You got $100,000 in coverage. You got $10,000 in cash value. You borrow $5,000, something happens to you, you pass away. All right? Here's what the insurance company will do if you have an index universal life policy. Your beneficiary will still get the $100,000, plus they will get whatever is left in your cash value. So if you only borrow $5,000, you still got $5,000 in cash value. You will get the face amount, not you, because you'll be gone on to be with the Lord. But whoever's your beneficiary will get the $100,000, plus they'll get the $5,000 in your cash value, okay? Because see, the rules with insurance is very different than investment plans. You can grow a whole lot of money through insurance. And I'm going to tell you now how you can have a tax-free retirement. That's where the LERP comes in, okay? And it's through insurance. All right. So with this index universal life policy, it comes with living benefits. Living benefits, and this is what we usually don't think about as we get older. You know, we don't think there's anything going to happen to our health, but let's say, what if something happens where you have a critical illness? You have a chronic illness. You have a terminal illness. You need long-term care. You know, if you need that, you know, now you're trying to find services or find money somewhere to take care of that. But when you have an insurance policy with National Life Group, it comes with those living benefits. For example, we had a gentleman, he was 38 years old, he suffered a stroke. The insurance company cut him a check for $221,000. And he could do whatever he needed to do with it, take care of whatever needs he had, mortgage or whatever, while he was recovering from the stroke, because he had a qualifying event, okay? Qualifying event, chronic illness is where you cannot perform at least 2 out of 6 activities, like getting yourself dressed, feeding yourself, bathing yourself, you know, continence and all that kind of stuff. Well, he couldn't perform that because he suffered a stroke, so the insurance company cut him a check for that amount. But I'm glad to report that he did recover. But let me ask you a question. How many of y'all think that he had to pay that money back once he recovered? You're exactly right. He didn't have to pay the money back. Why? He had a qualifying event. And so they advanced him to living benefit. Now, how many of y'all think that means his insurance lapsed? He didn't have the insurance after they paid that out. Do you think he didn't have insurance or he did? Who thinks that he still had his insurance? Okay. Who thinks that once they paid it out, he didn't have it? Okay. So he still got his insurance, even right now. And he's paying into it, and it's still viable. And guess what? If he had another qualifying event, it'll pay out again. Okay? The death benefit? It could, but let me say why I say that. With the index universal life policy, it is growing cash value, plus you have a death benefit, okay? So with this, let me give you an example like this, and then this is how I'm gonna answer your question, because it depends on if they accelerated to $221,000, but he still got $300,000 in his cash value, then he's still gonna get whatever's in cash value and the death benefit. You follow what I'm saying?
Right.
He's gonna get both. And since he's still paying on it, then if he passes away, it'll depend on whatever's in his cash value and whatever's the face amount is what the family will get. Does that make sense? Yeah. So now, let me tell you what the wealthy do with that index universal life policy, also known as a LERP, okay? What the wealthy do is when their kids are about 17 to 18, I'm saying this to you all, okay, these are nuggets, these are secrets, because if you guys have kids and grandkids, do this for your kids and grandkids. I did this for my 3-year-old granddaughter. Beautiful. Her name was Alicia, okay? Very smart. She reminds me of me when I was a little girl. You know how they 3, but they 25? That's her, okay? And now she'll be 6 this year, and oh my God, she's so articulate. Grammy, but no, I don't want that. I like to do so and so. Well, so Grammy, how was your day? I mean, this little girl, you know, when I was growing up, my grandma would say, "You just womlish," because you know sometimes you can be too smart for your age, you know. And so I can, you know how you can see you can see a child and you can see there's something special about that child. That's what I see about a 3-year-old, my granddaughter, okay? So I have 6. I have 3. All of them, I have all girls except for one, and that's a boy, Zion. He's the oldest. So we got insurance for her because when she gets to age 18, I don't want her to have to start out with 0.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
See, when I got married, all me and my husband had was love. We ain't had no credit. We ain't had no money. We ain't had nothing. I remember we were moving into an apartment and we needed a refrigerator. We had to get somebody to co-sign, help us get a refrigerator. Because when you start out, you ain't got no credit. Ain't nobody going to trust you, right? We brand new, but thank God we made it 39 years. Yeah. Hallelujah. You know? But if I can help my grandkids and not have to start out that way, then this is why once I found out how this IUL worked, I got 2 for me. Okay. I confess, I'm in the church. Y'all like to shop, just leave me alone. I like nice things, okay? So I got 2 for me, and I got an annuity. I have 1 for my husband. I have 1 for all of my kids and my grandkids because now I know how to grow money. So now let me tell you what the rich do, okay? What the rich do is that when the children are young, 15, 16, 18, whatever, they go and get $1 million policy on them, or even $500,000,
right,
because they can afford it.
Right.
You know, and then like for my grandson, he was 18. We got $500,000 worth of policy on him. And we pay like $185 a month, okay? Because we're trying to build income for him for the future, right? So when my grandson turns 45, because he says, "Grammy, I don't want to be like you and Papa. I work on the job for 30 years and, you know, retire when I'm in my 60s. He said, "I want to retire at 45. I said, "I don't blame you. I ain't want to work on the job 30 years either. That's why I retired in June. I retired 26 years. I did not do 30 years. I came into this business, and that's what I've been doing ever since. And so, you know, the policy that I have for him, I got it while he was young, vibrant. So if you have any health issues, guess what? That insurance policy is going to cover it all. But let me tell you how it's going to grow in the cash value. This is the part where I'm talking about the life insurance retirement plan of how you can build money in your cash value. You know, when you're growing money in the insurance policy, you can pull it out as a policy loan and pay no taxes. Did y'all hear that? Okay, now if you got a 401k, you got to pay taxes. If you got a 403b, you got to pay taxes.
Yes.
If you got a 457b, you got to pay taxes. And not only that, you can't take the money out until you are age 59 and a half. 59 and a half. But with this policy that I have my grandson and also my grandkids, now my grandson got the most coverage because he's the oldest, so the rest of them, they don't have as much coverage as he does. I'm trying to set him up because of what he's trying to do. So we got $500,000 policy on him. It's growing cash value. We're paying for it. We're not telling him that we're paying for it. He owns it. He can go pull money out, but we ain't gonna tell him. Because by the time he gets to age 30 is when he'll probably have more maturity. Right now he's 20. So he's still young. You know, he's still young. So we got to get that. But I know I'm setting things up for him for the future. When he turns 45, guess how much money he'll have in his cash value? Anybody want to guess? Oh, that'd be nice. That's only what, 20 years worth of growth? $1 million? Oh Lord, it'd be nice, but no, not that soon. So not that high. So when he turns 45, he'll have $400,000 in cash value. Now, because of something called a Rule of 72, Rule of 72 says if you divide 72 by an interest rate, it tells you how many years it takes you to double your money. So if you divide 72 by 2, it takes you 36 years to grow your money, to double it. So if you have $50,000, it'll take you 32 years to make it $100,000. But if it's growing at a rate of 9%, then 8%, then every 9 years, your money will double. So in his case, at 45, remember it has to build first, okay? So it's building. So at 45, he'll have $400,000. At 60, he'll have $800,000. When he turns 70, he'll have $1 million. Yes, ma'am. That's if he doesn't take anything out of it. But even if he takes things out of it, because of the compounding of it, it'll grow back. It'll grow right back.
Real fast.
So let me tell you what the rich do. What the rich do is they go and get $1 million policy on their kids when they're 18, 19. By the time they turn 65, because they get $1 million, they have that $1 million in their cash value, but have more than that. They have about 8 or 9 million. Okay? By the time they turn 70 or 80, they policy, and they could have been taking money out of it, but they're gonna probably be in the high teens or high 20s, 20-some thousand when they retire. I mean, if they pass away. That's how much money is in their cash value. That money has provided them a retirement benefit, and because of the compound, that means that the money is compounding faster than as they're making the withdrawals. Now, if they get reckless and just frivolous, you can't spend it all up. But what they do is they're very strategic in how they pull the money out. They have a limit so they don't make sure they don't deplete it all out. So when they retire, they're leaving $23 million to their family. But guess what? They're not leaving it to one person. You know why? I mean, think about, well, y'all don't know my kids. So my kids, I can't trust them to get all that kind of money. When you ain't had that kind of money before, you'll be buying cars and houses. And I mean, think about how many athletes we see when they become millionaires. I mean, they get all this money and they never had that kind of money in their life, and they get it, they don't know what to do with it, and then by the time they leave NFL, they broke. Why? Because if you give a whole lot of money to somebody, but you didn't give them the knowledge and what to do with it. You said the scripture of being a wise steward. Well, you got to know what to do with the money, and this is where I believe we lack, we perish for lack of knowledge. We got to know how do I manage this money? What do I do with it? Like, if somebody gave me $1 million right now, you know what I'm putting it in? Insurance. Because I know I'm not going to lose it. I am not going to lose money in insurance. Guess where everybody else is putting their money? The banks. You got credit things. Everybody's putting their money in insurance. They're not just putting it in the bank because they know insurance is where they're going to grow the money. So what happens is that they get a trust. That money, once they pass away, is going to be going to a trust fund. And then that trust fund is going to be distributed to the family according to their directions. And this is how they're able to prolong their wealth and have, this is why when you see the Roosevelts, you see the Kennedys, this is how they're able to preserve wealth. They don't leave their money to one person. It goes into a trust so that everybody gets the benefit. And then every birth child that they have, when they get up to a certain age, they get the same kind of insurance. Then they have the beneficiaries be the trust. Okay? Let me slow down a little bit. I see y'all looking at me strange. I'm going to be talking some good stuff, all right? So they let the beneficiary be the trust, and then this is how you preserve it. And see, like my husband and I, we have a trust. When I pass away, when my husband passes away, I'm the trust. I'm going to get the money. And when he passes away, if I pass away, he's going to get the money. But if both of us do, the money is in the trust. So that way, I don't have to worry about making sure my kids get money to my grandkids. Yes, ma'am. If you have a trust, you do have to have a trustee, for sure, okay? But see, there's a way you can set it up. Like, for example, right now I have a beneficiary. You can also have a contingent beneficiary. So usually husband and wife is together, both of them passed away. You can have a contingent beneficiary, and a contingent beneficiary is your trust. You see? So what it is that my husband is the beneficiary direct, and I'm the beneficiary for him. So if something happens to him, I still have access to the money that I can use while I'm alive. But if something happens when I die, then guess what? Then it's going to go into trust. Then it will be distributed to family members based on how I set it up. Like, you got to have a driver's license. You can't be in jail. You can't be no drunk because I ain't getting you no money. Okay? You better do what's right because I done steal some stuff, all right? You got to making me shame, and I'm with the Lord. And ain't that the niece and son are doing that? You ain't going to be doing my name like that. Okay? But that's kind of how we do it, and we can talk a little bit more about that, but the main thing I want you to do, yes, ma'am. Yeah, you can go to attorney. I do have a referral. His name is Mr. Knowles. He's a phenomenal gentleman. He lives right, his office is right there off of Capitol Circle, northeast, over there, not down the street, before you get to the auto zone over there. Okay? And before you get to Park Avenue. Okay? So, yeah, and he's matter of fact, I just told you, and I said, hey, we need to go and talk to him because there's something else. And I'm getting more into the weeds, but there's the way you can set that trust up. It's beautiful. Like, I have my business in it. I have it where it goes to my children. There's a certain way you can do that, but that's kind of too much over here. What I want you all to know first is that get some insurance. If you don't have insurance, get some insurance. If you have insurance on the job, remember, when you pass, this is what happened to me. I was working with the state. I came into this business February 1, 2020. I retired June the same year. When I left it, I had $500,000 worth of insurance, but it was on the job. When I left the job, I couldn't take that insurance with me.
Couldn't take it.
So this is what they say: if you leave the job, they give you 30 days to convert it to a whole life policy.
Right.
But guess what? I'm paying $80-some now for this $500,000, and you want me to pay $250 for $50,000? Is you crazy? And so that's what happens, because as you get older, and this is the rude awakening that a lot of people have when they get to retirement, you get ready to retire, didn't realize you have insurance on the job all this time. Now here it is, you're getting ready to leave the job. Now you got to figure out your life insurance, but you're older now, 60, and now your insurance premium is going to be very high because of your age. And then Lord forbid if you have health issues. So if you have insurance on the job, please get your own insurance. Because if you leave the job, you still got insurance. Because you know how many people lost insurance when they lost their job during the pandemic? You know, they closed down the whole hospitality industry. Those who were with the TSA, with the airport, those in the hotels lost their jobs, and you end up losing your insurance too. So this is why you need to have your own policy, okay? The second thing I would say is that if you're looking to build retirement, let's have a conversation. One of the things that I offer is a financial lifestyle strategy. What we do is we take you through 6 steps. We did that with Ms. Dunlap. Take you through 6 steps. Make sure we find out what's your focus. Is it building money for the future? Do you want to take care of aging parents? Do you want to have money in case of an emergency? Do you want to take a trip? Do you need to buy a house? What do you want? And then we see what you currently have in place, and then we show you what things that you can do to be able to have the money that you want. A lot of times people retire, but they don't have in mind how much money do I need to have coming in for, when I'm in retirement. Usually when you retire at 60, if you live till you're 100 years old, that's 40 years worth of living. Your money that you're getting from retirement got to last you 40 years. I say 40. That means it got to outlast inflation. It got to outlast the economy going down. It got to outlast the cost of living. It got to outlast that. So if your pension and your Social Security is your only means, you're in trouble. I'm just going to tell you right now, you're in trouble.
Right.
Because it's not going to last. It does not keep up with the cost of living increase. So if that's you, and you're like, okay, Denise, what can I do? Then what we can do is see, what other things we can put in place for you, because you need places where you can pull out pockets of money. See, that's why I have an annuity. I have an annuity. If I need to go make a withdrawal, I can do that, because I'll be 60 this year.
Right.
Okay? All right? I can make a withdrawal. But I also have an IUL, so my grandson, he don't have to be 60 to pull money out. He can pull the money out at 45 if he wants to, but he better not. Okay? Because we got plans. I got to download some stuff. He's still young. I got to download. Okay? So that's my time. Let me just find out, do y'all have any burning questions? And I'm turning it over to this gentleman that's been waiting very patiently. Yes, ma'am. So there's a universal life and there's an index universal life. With the universal life, all that means is with a universal life policy, it allows flexible premiums. Like when you have a whole life, it's level benefit. That means if you're paying $100, you got to pay $100 for the rest, okay? With a universal life, it offers flexible premiums. So if you needed to down the payment, hey, I can only pay $75 now. It allows flexible premiums. Index universal life policy operates a little bit like the universal life policy, but it's just that the earnings on it is based on the index. That green line that I showed you up there. No, ma'am. Because with an index universal life policy, your money's going to be growing a little bit greater. It has a greater interest rate. Plus, you got some different strategy. I know a lot of people know about the S&P, et cetera, but it's going to be growing based on the index fund. Plus, you're able to overfund it a lot more. So, like, for example, a lot of people want a tax-free retirement, so they go and get a Roth IRA, right? You get a Roth, you put money into it, it grows, and when you pull it out, it's tax-free. And then you don't have to deal with those required minimum distribution, RMD, when you have a Roth. The only thing is that when you get a Roth, the maximum you can put in that if you're under age 50 is $6,500 a year. But when you're over 50, the maximum you can put in is $7,500. So you're gonna need time to build that up, to be able to have the lump sum in it, but it will still allow you to have a tax-free retirement, okay? But a better way to do that is get an index universal life policy. There's really, there's a limit called a MEC modifier. Well, I'm not going to get into it, but anyway, I'm just saying that so he can know what I'm talking about. So with the MEC, there's there's a threshold. So let's just say, in other words, you're overfunding the policy, but there is a rule. You can't overfund it to a certain amount. But so if you want to put more into it, you just give yourself more coverage. Okay, I want 100,000. I want to start putting an extra amount in here, but then let's just say you're overfunding it by $1,000 because that's too much money you're putting in it because you're trying to build it for retirement. Then you just raise the coverage amount to 150, and then it balances out the MEC, which means you're not overfunding it. Because if you overfund it too much, then the federal government will say, wait a minute, hold up, this ain't no insurance policy. You use it like an investment plan. But see, you get $500,000, just depending on whatever your coverage is. You get the coverage that you need, but it's going to build cash value over time. So let me tell you what I mean. Let's just say you started out with $50,000, okay, and you have it as an increasing. It's not level benefit. You have it as increasing. What that means is that whatever is in your cash value gets added to your death benefit. So it's an increasing death benefit. If you started out with $50,000 and you pass away at 100, that could be $300,000 that goes to your family. Why? Because they're adding the cash value to your death benefit. Did everybody catch that? So let me show you how that works. What happens is there is something called the cost of insurance. So let's just say you get $100,000 worth of coverage, all right? And your premium, the minimum, depending on your age, if you're in the 40s, the minimum you can put in it probably maybe $100, right? So that's the cost of insurance. You got to at least pay that, to make sure you keep the insurance, because you got to make sure you're paying enough to keep that level of insurance, right? So, but let's just say you decide to overfund it, and you're going to put in $200 more, all right? So instead of paying $100, I'm purposely going to pay $300. Why? Because I want to grow cash value. That's exactly what I'm doing for my grandson. He was 18. It only cost him about $50 to get insurance for $500,000. But because I'm overfunded, I'm paying like an extra $100 and some into it, because over time it's going to build based on compound interest. Now, the way you know that it's percentage, the percentage is somewhere around, it's just dropped. I think it's like 5.85%. It has been as much as 8%, but we're in a downward economy, but it's not going to always stay at that 5.85. So your money is growing on compound interest. So let's just say this month you may have earned $5. Next month might be $5.50. Next month might be about $5.75. That's how your money grows based on compound interest. So what we do is when I sit down with families, I can show you a projection. This is how much money is expected to be in your cash value at age 50, 60, 70, 80, 100. You see what I'm saying? So the system that I have, it extrapolates that strategy, to show you what is the projected amount of cash value that can be in your insurance policy, so you can know, okay, by the time I turn 70, I need to have this amount because I need to be paid this, or I need to be able to have access to this amount of money when I'm in my retirement. So when I'm getting ready, this is why I say I have 2 IULs, So when I get ready to retire, I want to be able to have multiple streams of income, so if one of them dries up, then I won't run out of money. I hope I can get my Social Security, but more than likely I'm not going to get it because my income is going to be more than what it allows. So this is why I have annuity. I have 2 IULs. I have, there's a couple of other things that I have in place too. And then I also have this business that I do that will pay me residual income for the rest of my life. You follow what I'm saying? So you want to just start thinking, having multiple streams of income, so that when you retire, you're not just relying just on your pension and your social and your Social Security. So if you guys have more questions, definitely, yes, ma'am. Value? Okay, we will have to look at your policy and see what you currently have. Because if it's whole life, it needs to be doing, it have to have something in there. But we'll look and see what kind of policy you have. If it doesn't have cash value, then that generally means it's a term policy. Oh, that's term. That's term. You're right. It don't have cash value. See, this is the part where I'm saying that a lot of times people have term insurance, and then because you didn't get permanent before, then every 5 years, and the closer you get to 100, the more expensive it's going to be.
Yeah.
But there is a saving grace, because I have a client that was 78 years old. I just wrote a policy on her. So it's going through underwriting right now. She doesn't have any health issues, so I don't see any reason why they can't get her approved. So what I would say is that you guys, I'll give my business cards to Ms. Dunlap, and or pass some things out, and then because I would like to get your feedback if I can pass out a survey for them to fill out. It's like real short, real quick. But you can sit down and we can come up with some strategies to see, because we do have different insurance companies we work on. Like we work with Aetna, we have Mutual of Omaha. So even if it's more than getting a whole life policy, at least it'd be permanent. Those would be things that you could probably tap into. You might not be able to get the ones like an IUL because of being younger, and how money would grow, because you may not, it's going to take time for that to grow, and it may not grow to the level that you want. But at least we can get you some more permanent insurance, so that way if you pass away, you're not passing away with no insurance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. It's a good chance. Okay, so first I'll tell you that Social Security is only as safe as the next piece of legislation. I'll tell you that part first. The second thing is that Social Security Administration has said out of their mouth that by the year 2034, they don't anticipate there being enough money in the trust fund to continue to pay out Social Security. If you go and Google Google the federal government's budget, you'll see that Social Security makes up about 60% of the budget. Okay? So then when you think about that in 2020, we had a COVID, right? A lot of people passing away. So if a lot of people are passing away, and then when you look at the ratio of the number of people of working to the people that get Social Security, that number has shrunk very small. Like before, when I was growing, like maybe in the 80s or 90s, you might have had 150 people to one person. So that means that money, or like some 150 people are working, paying taxes, and then some of that money is going to the one person. Now that number is probably like 10 to 1. That means out of 10 people working, that's who's paying your money. So if you think about 2020, a lot of people are laid off. There were like millions of people without work. So then I'm like, okay, what happened to Social Security? Did anybody hear about the federal government printing money? That's how you were getting your Social Security. You were printing money. So what happens when you print money? Inflation, right? That means your dollar can't buy what it used to. This is why gas, where it is. This is why bread, what it is. And so I don't know the answer to that. I hope it'll be around, because I done paid 27 years in it. They need to give me my money back, okay? But I might not get it. So this is why I'm saying, first of all, you're in the house of God. And if we're Christians, I'm not telling you not to plan, but God will take care of his own.
That's right.
So if you're worried about the Social Security, don't. Just put that part in God's hand. But if you can learn information and see if there's other things that you can engage in that can help you, definitely do that. But don't just bank on Social Security by itself.
Amen.
But don't let fear grip your heart, because we know that's not of God. Okay? We have to put our total trust and dependence that if God takes care of the birds of the air, and they don't toil, and even the flowers, they don't toil and all that, how much more will he take care of us? So he's going to take care of us. But then also, get you some insurance. Okay? Don't be saying, oh, God got me when God, have y'all ever heard that story where this person was stranded on an island or whatever, wanted to be delivered? God sent somebody on a boat. He said, no, God gonna take care of me. God sent a helicopter. No, God, and then the guy ended up dying. I'm like, it's like a fictitious story, but it's a true story, okay? It's like, it's like God sends us stuff, but because it don't come the way we think, we're like, no, we would expect God to come on down. We see his hand coming down, and he gonna come and just put some money in your hand. That ain't how God works. He works through people. And then what happened is that we think we're being very modest by when somebody want to give you, say, oh, no, that's okay. Y'all better stop refusing money. That's how God works. It says, give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measures. Pressed down, shaken together, running over. Shall men pour into your bosom? Shall men pour into your bosom? And y'all up there saying, no, that's okay. I got it. Oh, give it to me. I'll take it. Give it to me. I ain't gonna refuse no one because I know how God bless. But anyway, so that's my time. You know, guys, thank you all so much for allowing me to speak to you. I hope that I said some things that will benefit you. If you need to reach me, I'll have some business cards that I can pass out. Okay, so I'm gonna give you that.
Okay. I don't know about you, but one thing when it came to math, sometimes math would make your head hurt. I don't know if your head hurt or not, but yeah, go ahead and pass them out. My wife's going to pass to you some handouts because I want you to take something home with you that you can have to work with. I think about my older Destiny. When she would do her math at school, she talking about her head hurt. And I tell her, that's because you're trying to get some of it done. So I'm going to try and do a little bit of that today, a little bit anyway. As soon as you get one of those handouts, we'll just go straight through that, and I'll be at the end. Yes, ma'am.
So pass out the survey. You guys can fill it out and we'll give it to Ms. Dunlap and then she'll get back to you.
You getting them? That first page is in purple. The page is purple. We just gonna skip over that right now. That's so later on when you need something to rely on with helping you through your life, through your financial situation, we'll have something. But turn over to page 1, and that's where we'll begin. Now, when I start talking about financial stuff, to me, I have to go to the scripture. That's where we're going to start with the scripture. I can't do anything unless I go to the scripture and I have a way to go. So I'm going to start out. Everybody got one, Connie? Okay. I think we got enough. Okay, Malachi, the 3rd chapter, verse 8 says, will a man rob God? Well, you have to think about this, and the scripture is asking us if we would rob him. Yeah, you have robbed me. It's like you thinking to yourself and you start to think, will a man rob God? Well, when you think about who God is, and would you rob him? Well, God is the all great everything. Everything belongs to God. There's nothing God can't do. But yet it's still, you say to yourself, will a man rob God? This is the most highest being that there has ever been. And you start thinking to yourself, will a man rob God? I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But then it says, but ye have. But you say, when will we have robbed God? So you start thinking about it and you start to think, well, we robbed God. How did we do it? And they say, in tithes and offerings, okay? So there's a way we can go about it and we can rob God. Now, recently the Lord has brought this to my attention a lot about poverty and the whole thing. Maybe we have poverty because we don't go about doing things the way God intended us to do it, because what it say about the poor you always have with you. Maybe it's because we just don't do it the right way. Verse 9 says, ye are cursed with a curse, for you have robbed me, even this whole nation. Everybody, all of us got to that point. Lord help us. If we all trying to seek to ourselves and not doing what the Lord would have us to do, then which way are we really going, okay? Verse 10 says, bring you the tithes into the storehouse, that there might be meat in my house, and prove me wherewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there might not be room enough to receive it. And I've told you this before. I haven't received the blessing of the Lord. You know, a lot of times we get up in church and we talk about, praise the Lord. Lord, I want you to bless me. I want the Lord to bless me. I haven't been blessed with a blessing that I have to tell the Lord, Lord, that's just too much. That's way too much. Too much money. Okay. Well, I'm going to be honest about it. Sister Matthew said, the Lord ever bless you in the way you just say, Lord, that's too much. I got to just take some of that away. That's too much. I'm waiting on it too. But that's what the Lord says. I just haven't been blessed with that. I remember reading in the scripture about the Levites talked about that when people started paying their tithes like they were supposed to pay them, that they stood at the gates and told the people, don't bring this to church. And people say, oh, I got to pay my tithe. And they stand there talking about, take it home with you. It's too much. Now, I don't know. I know Sister Dora, back there, we count money sometimes, but we haven't had to count money like crazy back there. It ain't been no tens of thousands of dollars or anything, but we should be heading that way because you realize that God owns everything on this earth. Y'all understand that, right? And everything He gives us is just for something. He letting us hold it a little bit, but He owns it all. And we need to keep that. Verse 11 says, and I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes, and he shall not destroy the fruits of your ground, neither shall neither shall your vine cast her fruit before the time in the field, saith the Lord of hosts. So there comes a point when God allows things to happen to us. I start thinking about that when it's time to plant. Well, it's time to plant now. Because usually when February rolls around is the time you start planting corn and all these kind of things. So they'll come up like they're supposed to. But I'm starting to learn a few other things. Like oranges don't get ripe until about October. You know, citrus fruit, that's different. Plums, they get ripe about April to May. That's different. And I started to think, Lord, you mean to tell me I could take a plot of land and have it spaced out. Like this comes ready in November, this comes ready in December, this comes ready in January. And I started to think about that. The Lord got it fixed so we can take care of ourselves the whole year round. But who thinks about that? You know, when the summer comes along, give me some of them watermelons. Okay, that's great and fine. But if the Lord was to take us and cause us to learn the things that we need to know, how much better we will be. He created this earth that we live on. He knows all the things that go on this earth. It takes us a while to learn what things need to go at what time. Okay? I understand apples grow at a different time too. Cherries, they talk about that in Washington right about now. They're getting ready. Let me go on a little bit further here. I'm just going to go through this. Someone who eats greedily or viciously, that's who the devourer is. Now, you know, with us, there are two things that we have to watch out for. If we're going to live for the Lord and do His will, then we have to pay tithes. That 10%, we just have to pay that. Otherwise, what happens to us is we get caught up in the money thing or the mammon. That's the other side of that. Now, you know, if you look at this world today, I can remember when a person, you know, if you got $1 million, you had a lot of money. It ain't millions no more. It's billions now. You can go out and buy your $1 billion team. If you don't have that kind of money, now like with the sports team, you get together. You go get Magic Johnson and somebody else, and you buy a team together because it costs so much money. But why? Because we're trying to make money. And you know, anybody knows the first rule of business is to make money, you have to spend money. Okay? And I want you to understand that. Okay? And all nations shall call you blessed, for ye shall be a delightsome land saith the Lord of hosts. Paying tithes is paying 10% of your increase into the church treasury. Now, if we all did that, how much greater we'll be. And the Lord has fixed tithes. It ain't no base. It's the base 10. It ain't no base 12 or base 15. You got to know what all that stuff is. But 10%. So if the Lord give you $1, you owe a dime. If the Lord give you $10, you owe $1. If the Lord give you $1,000, you owe $100. It's real simple. It's real easy to keep up with. And we need to learn that too. And if the Lord give you $100 and you pay 9.99, that's not tithes. That's less. We got to understand that. And if you don't pay your tithes, Lord help you. You want the Lord to curse you? That's what he says. And I don't care what nobody say. I can tell you when I was growing up with me and my wife, we were staying in a place. Now this has been a few years ago because we've been married almost 43 years. Our utility bill was $18. Now that might sound crazy to y'all, but back then that's what your bill might be. It was $18. I couldn't pay $18 for my utility bill. So I remember Bishop JB coming back and click, 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 click. And I'm looking like this. I'm feeling kind of sad because all these things happen. Click, 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 click. I have to tell him, I ain't got no job. I ain't got nothing. But I remember Bishop went out and he talked to Calvin Singleton. Some of y'all know him. And he put me to work for a day. We hauling concrete. That was a hard job. But at the end of that day, I got like $30. $18 went to pay my utility bill. Okay. And $3 went to paying tithes. But like I say, some people don't understand paying tithes because I think you gotta get into knowing how to do that, just like you gotta get into knowing about being saved and what that means too. So you may not get it right away, but each time I learned to pay my tithes, I got better about it each time. And boy, did the Lord get better about what he did for me. I want y'all to understand that right away. Okay, and then there's a statement that says about a tithe is a specific 10% of your income. And then it goes on to tell you a few other things. Under there, underline, if you need to go to this place in Google and find out all this information, I got, type it in your device and it'll show you. Second of all, a budget. We need to create a budget, okay? A budget is important to you. You got to know how to go about that. You need to know what a budget does. A budget is all the expenses that you recur in a month, okay? That's your car, that's your house insurance or your rent insurance. That's everything you got. And you got to be free to yourself, free about that. If this is what I have to pay every month, this is how much I'm going to need, And then you need to look at what you made, okay? If you made $1,000 and your bill is $2,000, you're in trouble, okay? You're in trouble because somewhere down the line it's going to catch up to you. You can't owe out more than you take in, all right? So we have to work on that stuff. So I tell anybody, your first thing, if you turn over to your very last page, I kind of put a budget sheet out there for you. I couldn't find one online I like, and the one I made up for myself is different. But if you turn over, I'll show you if I can get this thing here to go. All right. Okay. At the top, I have tithes there, so whatever your tithes are, You have two kinds of tithes. Some people pay on the gross, some people pay on their net. I say pay on your gross. It's easier to whatever your money is. Because if you pay on your net, you got to go to, if you have insurance taken out, you got to pay tithes on that. If you got a car note coming out, you got to pay on that. But if you just pay on the gross money that they make, it just makes it easy on you to get all that stuff done. But pay your tithes first, and then whatever your next bills are, if the next highest bill, if it's paying the rent on your house, I don't know what the rent on the house. But whatever your next highest bill, put that in there. And I gave you a few ideas of what to do. You got utilities, your car, insurance, like you've been told about. Okay. Car registrations and anything like that. Down at the bottom is one down at the very bottom. It talks about what? Yeah, well, I'm just putting them credit cards. I'm trying to put them. I'm gonna talk about them in a minute too. Okay, but if you're trying to get yourself out of debt, you have to put yourself on a budget and stay on the budget. You can't deviate this. If you're gonna pay this time, set up for next month. This is what I have to do. This is how I'm gonna get out of this stuff. Because most of you want to be debt free, don't you? I tell you, when I taught school for 35 years, and every month I get the check and I look at that check, and then I sit down at the thing and look at how much I have to pay out. And I'm going, it'd be nice to take this check and put it in my pocket instead of having to pay all these people all this stuff. Like you were talking about buying a refrigerator or whatever. It'd be nice to have that out the way. But you got to do something about that stuff. Because after a while, you get tired of it. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars you have to pay out to somebody every month. Every month. You don't get any satisfaction on this. You got to pay this out all the time until it's all done, whenever that is. Now, I'm hoping I'm helping some of you younger folks, because you maybe haven't thought about this yet. But like most of us are now retired, so we're having to deal with this. The reason I bring all this to our attention is I had to go through all this stuff, okay? In 1989, my father died, okay? Now, he had some insurance, but he didn't have a whole lot of insurance. So I ended up paying for his funeral. And it was a lot more. What does they give you now? $255, I think, when you die from the government. His insurance, it was more than $255. That was in 1989. And I can remember going to the funeral home with this guy, and he said, well, if you like this casket here and this here. And then he had these signs that would pop up just like that, and it had the price, how much it would cost. $5,500. I think that's what we paid for my dad's funeral. I didn't have that kind of money at that time. I don't know if you, so we got it, and I paid it, and I took the insurance he had, because it may have been $500, but I paid the $5,500. He died. 2003, I think, is when my mother died. She didn't have any insurance either. So I had to I have one sister, I talked to her. Her insurance was $8,000. Okay? So we got together. She said she'll pay half and I'll pay half. You don't want to have to do that for your parents. You're still trying to live for yourself. You understand what I'm talking about? So anyway, we got together and we paid that. We paid all that stuff off. But you got to be careful. You want to get your budget in a way that you, at the end, it talks about saving. You got to save something for yourself. Now, I used to tell people a long time ago is when Christmas comes around, I want to have saved enough money to buy what I want. If I wanted a computer, I had the money where I could buy me a computer. I ain't have to worry about nobody else buying me something like that. But it's kind of a reward for doing the work you're supposed to do all year long, okay? That was my way of handling it. You may have a different way, but it's a good way to handle things. But you got to have a budget, and you got to stick to it from January all the way through December and stay. Why? Because you're trying to get rid of things. When my wife and I got married, and I decided on myself that, we started out 50-50. My goal was I pay 70% of the bills, and she only had to pay 30% of the bill, and they would get covered. And that's how we went. We bought a couple cars that way. We got started in our house that way. Well, the cars all paid for, the house all paid for, and now we got the money to do it without our own self. But you gotta figure that out. You can't stay that day. You got married yesterday, and the day that it's gonna be the babe, I'm gonna do 70 today, and you do 30, and everything gonna be fine. You have to work up toward that. You got to keep working on that bill. That's how a budget works. You just can't. It's not gonna happen overnight. I don't care how much you try. You got to get to that point. I tell anybody now I'm debt free, but why? We stuck to a budget. And if you don't believe me, I can go back year after year and show you what our budget, this is on this sheet, what our budget was and how we got through all that stuff. But you have to get through all that, okay? Let's go back to this. Huh? Yes, ma'am. Yes. Okay. Well, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You notice I just left some spaces in there because all the way up and down I had stuff. So actually with mine, it was done on Microsoft Works. And if you put the budget, it would add it up on the side where it's a bunch of zeros. But a lot of people don't use Microsoft Works anymore, but I still got it. The other reason I like it is because you can have the lines there. You won't have the lines if you use like Microsoft Office spreadsheet. They don't come lined up like that. So that's why, you got to have all the stuff that you're going to do. If your food budget is $300 a month or whatever, we're going to talk about that a little bit later too. But you got to have everything you need in there. If you like going to McDonald's 62 times a week or whatever, you need to, well, you do. You need to put that in there. And I'm going to tell you, McDonald's ain't what it used to be. Because I remember, y'all probably heard this where you go get a burger, fries, and a drink, and then have a penny left over from your dollar. Any of y'all remember that? Okay, that was a long time ago. Now you go to McDonald's, they talking about where my penny. All right, let's see. Let's get back on this thing. All right. We talked about the budget sheet. We're going on a little bit further here. Number 3, it says usury. I guess most of you know what usury is, right? And the Bible is explicit about that stuff. And that's probably what got us in a lot of trouble. The Old Testament condemns the practice of charging interest on a poor person because a loan should be an act of compassion and caring of one's neighbor. It teaches that making a profit off a loan from a poor person is exploiting that person. What? Y'all heard me? Did y'all hear that? You hear me, Sister Dunlap? Maybe that's why we got so many poor people running around here. We can't get rid of them. Because why? People that are rich, they try to seek people that are poor and keep you down. Let me go on here. Usury is the act of lending money at unreasonably high interest rates. Okay? Also, there's a place you can go find that. In Florida, the maximum permissible interest rate is 18%. I don't know if any of you knew that. That's the most you can charge in Florida, 18%. That's a little bit higher than 10%, but that's what the state of Florida allows you to do. Now, I went out, I guess a couple weeks ago, because I was looking at a credit card. So I typed in reasonable rate for a credit card. And then it pops up and say the top 10 credit cards are this. Visa, MasterCard, whoever, 28%. I'm going, wait a minute, that's supposed to be a reasonable rate? And I kept looking at it, I'm going, what is this? We're trying to get out of debt, we're not trying to get in debt, okay? But that's what it will come out, 28%. So I said, well, I started to think to myself, well, wait a minute now, in Florida, if the most you can have is 18%, how you can charge me 28%? And you be legal. You know what it is, somebody passed the buck around to some of them legislators, and that's how they get going. You know, that's how things keep going. So, you know, y'all know the state of Florida is not broke, right? You know, what I want you to understand is a few years ago, our governor at the time, I ain't gonna say his name, but they used to allow you 6% on your Florida retirement. Then all of a sudden it dropped to 3%. I thank God, I thank God, I thank God. I got out right before it dropped, okay? I'm serious. Like a day or two later, my interest, the money that came in from the state, it would have dropped from 6% to 3%. And I thank God I made it right on it. Because I remember talking to our financial officer, and she said, you know, you made it right on time. I said, thank you, Jesus. That's all I can. It's a difference between getting paid 6% and 3%. It's a big difference in money. All right? Lord help us. Oh, let me get down here. Ezekiel 18 and 13 hath given forth unto usury, and have taken increase. Shall he then live? He shall not live. What? He has done all these what? Abominations? They always told me that's a bad thing when the Lord started talking about your abomination. That's what it says. He shall surely die. His blood shall be upon him. That don't sound good either, does it? All because you want to charge somebody interest on some money. And how many places are like that nowadays? Okay. Exodus 22 and 25, though lend money to any of my people that is poor by thee, thou shalt not be to him as an usurer, neither shalt thou lay upon him usury. So if somebody need to come to you and borrow some money, man, I need $100. Well, I got the $100 I can give you, but it's gonna cost you $110 to pay me back. We ain't supposed to be that way. That's what the Bible says. I'm just trying to tell y'all right now. Oh, I gave him $100 of my money. He better give me my 10 extra dollars. We ain't supposed to be that way. Okay? But a lot of people in the world are a lot like that nowadays. Okay? It's not that you're trying to help somebody. It's that you're trying to get some money out of this thing. See, it ain't enough that the Lord has blessed you, but you want to get your blessing and his too. Don't you remember there's a place in the scripture where a master call some people together, and he can give one 5 talents and one 2 talents and one 1 talent. And the person that had 5 talents went out and did such and such and brought back 10, right? And the one that had 2 brought back 4, and the one that had 1 talent brought back what? It brought back little, right? And then the master got on him by that, right? Well, Lord, help us not to be that way, okay? But he said you would have been better to take your money and use it in what? Usury? Is that what the Bible says? You should have figured some way to take that money and make something out of it. Now, that's why we're here today. I thank Sister Dunlap for that, because at some point in time, we need to look at what we got, what money we got, and how we can take it to our advantage to get to somebody. You know, I'm trying to help my oldest son now. He looking at houses in Tallahassee. I would have never thought a house in Tallahassee would cost $1 million. See, y'all don't even know this stuff yet, okay? I didn't know either till I started looking. You look down there, and you know, you want this house and with this and that. It's not that you want anything fancy. It's just that what it's gonna cost you. Okay. Now I don't know how many of us can afford $1 million house, or how many of us want $1 million house, but it's gonna cost you a lot of money. I mean, Sister Beth, I know you got a house, and I have a house. And what I paid for the house and what it's worth today, it's worth over double to what we paid for the house. Okay? And it keeps going up. Thank you again. But if you're going to buy a house, I think God, my house is paid for now. I wouldn't like to start paying for one now. But see, my son that's looking for a house, oh, he doing good with the money and stuff, because he one of them IT people. So he worked for the government, what do you call it, the military, right? So he making money, but then that wasn't enough that he made money, that he went out and got another job, so he got 2 jobs, right? Because most of the stuff he can do from at home. Okay, but you got to have that on you, all right? Let me go a little bit further here. I'm going to let you read those scriptures. I'm going to go down to the third one. It says, Deuteronomy 23:19, thou shalt not lend upon usury to thy brother, usury of money, usury of victuals. You know what victuals are, don't you? Y'all used to, show used to come on the Beverly Hill building, and they talk about eating victuals. You know, some possum and coon shank and all that stuff. Well, I mean, it's in the Bible. Jay and them knew what they was talking about. Because, you know, they moved into $1 million mansion, remember? They found that oil and it made them some money, didn't it? Okay, food for provision. Turkey and other savory victuals were served. Okay? I'll let you read those, and then we'll come into your first page there. Here are 7 key tips for using financial success. Number 1, save automatically. Now, nowadays, we can do this. You don't have to run to the bank when you get your check and put might need a washer the next day. God forbid, like we just year or two ago, we needed a roof. Okay, roof, roof. I'm gonna tell you, they cost what we paid about $10,000 for that thing. You gotta have some kind of emergency fund to pay for that, because otherwise you're gonna look up there and the water's just gonna roll through your house. I'm serious. You know, you just look up there and it bloop, 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 and then you check the weather report and the weatherman, it's on the deluge coming tomorrow. Oh, Jesus, what we supposed to do? You got to have some money to take care of that kind of stuff. So you got to have an emergency fund. Next of all, it says, stick to a budget. I talked. Way now. That's one way. But there's one better than that. And this is if you got enough money in your bank account, you can get you an ATM card, okay? Now, ATM card, you can't go buy $1,800 refrigerator when all you got in your ATM account is $2, okay? Something gonna go wrong there. But I want you to understand this. But your ATM card, if you use it just like they're supposed to, then you don't have to pay any interest on that. And that can be your best friend. It'll save you out of a lot of trouble. Yes, ma'am. The simple reason is American Express is different from like Visa and MasterCard and all the others. The others, their thing is to make money out of you. What American Express does is they take money out of the businesses who make money. So that's why they don't charge you interest a lot of time. So they get their money out of the businesses. So that's why it's a little bit different. But that's it. But like I said, if you can have an ATM and you got $2,000 or $3,000 in there, or however much, 8,000, 20,000, then you're better off to have an ATM card and just use it that way. And most banks will give you one of those. Now, if you're in a situation where you can't afford that, ATM ain't gonna do you much good because you know what's in there and it ain't much. Okay. Then you may have to, try and search around and find a good credit card, one that ain't gonna cost you too much interest anyway. Some of y'all laughing, but I know what I'm talking about, And the other thing I need to tell you about a credit card, you still need to have some reason with doing that too, You need a new refrigerator or a new stove or something, and okay, the stove gonna cost me $1,000. You need to go on and pay that stuff off, because otherwise you got to pay the interest on it and all the other things that go along with that. You can't go, when you get the bill in and it says, well, only this month you only pay $12 and you'll be fine. You'll be paying for that for the rest of your life. Okay? President Obama a few years ago, he got it decided where all these credit companies, they had to put down there how much you had owed. That's the best thing that ever happened to you, because when you look down here and say, it's going to take me 42 years to pay it off at the minimum rate, you're having an idea how much money it's going to take you to get rid of that thing. I don't think anybody want to pay 42 years on a refrigerator, okay? But that's something that happens. All right, let's go on a little. Right. Pay the best you can on it, okay? My thing is, when I got ready to retire, we have a real good retirement system in my the county I work for. So 85% of the oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Sick leave. They pay you up to 85% of your sick leave when you come out of there. So after 30 years, I had a lot of sick leave. Okay, so I took that, and I had one credit card. It was $8,000. I paid that off. Okay, because otherwise, I'll still be paying on it today. Okay, but that's one way to handle that. A lot of people don't pay that. I just happen to have work in a good system that did that. All right. Because 85%, some of them might pay 50%, some may pay 35%. I just happened to work in one, and they wrote a big check, and that big check went right where it needed to go to. Because I was trying to get rid of that stuff. I didn't want to have that turning on, still trying to linger on and pay it today. I got rid of it. Okay. Any other questions? Let's see. Avoid high interest loans. We have to take a loan because most of us now, if you're in the position where you want to buy a house or something, most of us don't have $1 million to pay for a house in Tallahassee. So you're going to have to go to somewhere and get somebody that will pay for you having that house. But try and find the best interest loan you can. The lower the interest, the less you have to pay. The other thing I'll say about that is car payments. I don't know how else to say it, but I'm going to say it to you anyway. Never pay a down payment on a car. Y'all heard me? When you turn on TV, one of them, the first thing they talk about, here's your down payment, here's your monthly payment. Forget the down payment, because you don't have to do that. I tell anybody, what they do is when you put your down payment down, they take that and give it to their children. You think I'm joking? What is it? Billy needs some braces? Here, go get Billy some braces. That's what they do with that money. Because it's no reflection on how much you got to pay for that car. You don't see on there say, you're going to pay $8,000 for a car, you paid $500 down, you only owe $7,500. They ain't going to say that. They're going to say you still owe $8,000. So where did that money go? And this Billy, look at that. That's what's going to happen to that money. So don't let them fool you there. How many cars? 1, 2. Last 5 cars, I haven't paid anything down on that. Okay? I haven't paid any down payment on any cars. I go in there and tell the guy, I'm going to keep the car. And he basically said write off the stuff, and I rolled out the car. I remember we went to one place and talking to the guy, and he came out telling me I had to do this, this, and the other. And I had my calculator with him, and I did this. And I said, this is all I want to do, man. And we kept talking, and I did that again. After a while, he said, excuse me, he went out and bought a big calculator and sat down on his table and talking about how you going to do stuff. I said, we don't need this. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to pay. And this is what the Lord told me to do. Because a long time ago, I had a red Jeep. I don't know if any of y'all remember that. But Sister Lois, I remember talking to her about that. And we were sitting there, I was sitting there to the guy, and I told him I wanted this green Jeep out there. And he said, and I told him how much I wanted to pay. And he said, no, I can't do that. But I remember talking to Sister Lois, and Sister Lois said, I keep seeing you in this red Jeep. And the guy said, I remember this, the guy said, I can't do that on the green Jeep you want, but if you take the red Jeep, I can do it. So the Lord can get involved in all this stuff too. So don't let that get in your way. All right, let's go down to the next part. Yes, ma'am. I had Sable, Mercury Sable. I guess we had that car a year or so, something like that. When I went to the Jeep place out there, I told the guy, I got a trade-in, Sable. We sit down and talked about it, and he showed me what he was going to do for a price. And I got my new car, and we left from out there. I went out there a few later. The tires had went flat on the Sable. It's just laying out there like, oh, Lord, help me, Jesus. And no. Okay? Because they already know what they're going to do with those cars before you even come in there. They know how much it's worth. They know how much it's going to cost them to fix it. You don't know all this stuff because you don't do it there. But for a trade-in, unless they're going to show you something, well, if you trade in, we're going to give you $15,000 and this only costs $20,000. Well, that sounds like a good deal. No, what they're going to try and do is the least they have to pay for you on a trade-in is, now if you need another trade-in, ain't nothing about it. You know, if your car dying and you know it's dying, there ain't nothing you can do about that. They may give you a little money on it, but they're not going to give you the value of that car. Because why? Because they're going to try and fix it up as best they can and sell it to somebody else. Right. If you can do that, you're fine. A lot of times people around, when students come to town, they put advertisement out there saying, I have such and such a car, and tell them what's all wrong with it. You know, because, you know, in Florida we have this thing, what is it? Whatever it's worth, you sell it for that. I can't think of the word I want to say. But, you know, tell them what it's worth, and if they want to pay that money, you take the money and let them go on by themselves. So you don't have to pay for that stuff, okay? But that's the best way to do that, because car dealerships, they're not in the business of buying cars. They say they are, but they are. If you don't believe me, ride down Tennessee Street and see how many car lots got cars all over the place. You'll be looking for days, because the new one they built over by us, the Warner, Kia Warner, they got cars all. It's on the side of the car. It's it used to be a trailer park back there. Now it's loaded with cars back there. So that's one way you have to deal with that stuff. But no, if you get rid of it another way, get rid of it another way. All right. Let's see here. Okay. Number 7, pay your payments on time. That means whatever the bill is, make it on. Place where you'll pay for a car. It's not that you didn't qualify for the car right away. They trying to get you where they got you under subjection of them. Remember I read that scripture earlier, talk about usury? They'd rather you be poor people. They don't want you to be prosperous. Why? Because prosperous people don't have to live like poor. You know, I have a friend that come to Tallahassee. He came here, he brought his pilot with him. His pilot. You know, a pilot, you gotta pay them $40,000 a year to ride around with you and take you wherever. Okay? He had 2 airplanes. And because I remember, he's been to this church before. I remember when he was young, he was talking about, he wanted to be a businessman, and he told me about one time, he wanted to know where the business people go. So he went out to the airport, and he found out where the business people go. So every airport has a place where most people go and get on an airplane and fly around. But he went down there. They got steaks and turkey and all kind of stuff down there for the people with their own businesses. I don't know if any of y'all been to that in Tallahassee or not, but apparently there's a place they go and they get treated royally because they got all the money. Ain't that something? And he would fly around and because I think now he has his own pilot's license, so he flies his own self. But that's $40,000. You don't have to pay somebody else to do it. All right. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. And it goes up. It goes up. And a lot of times that's how you base on stuff now. Because like when I started, they used to have the credit bureau. I don't know if any of y'all remember that. But you go down to the credit bureau and they'll do what they could for you down there and tell you what they can tell you. We don't have that anymore now. A lot of stuff we used to have, we don't have now. But yeah, pay your bills on time. Keep your credit up as high as you can get it. Let's see what else we got here. Loans, okay. I talked about loans a little bit, but be careful about loans. Cause I mean, most of us, you got to have a loan to get a car, because we don't have that kind of money. Most of us, when you just start out, you don't have that kind of money. Most of us don't, okay? But I remember a lady used to go to church here, and she went out and bought a new car, and she paid for it new. Okay, and I'm going, how can you buy a car and pay new for it? Because I was nowhere in that kind of situation, but I wanted to know how you pay for a car new. I like to be in that position and just go out there and say, here's my money and let me go home. But you have to work up through that. Now I could go out there, and if I want a new car, I can buy me a new car now. But it's because what she taught me from way back when, that I got it in my head, you can actually do that. Okay? Some of us in that position now. Some of us going to get to that position someday. But you have to work on that stuff. And that's my whole purpose today, trying to get us to where we want to go. So, I mean, the next thing, I keep looking at these new electric cars, and they cost a lot more now. They cost a lot more, but I'm getting to where I could go out there and buy one of them. I'm not there yet, Sister Dunlap. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting close. Okay? At one time, I wouldn't even thought about that kind of stuff. Let's see. Oh, yeah, title loan. What's the word I wrote next to title loans? Okay, that's the best way I can say. Where they always got these weird colored buildings. They red or they yellow, something. Lord help us, something to make y'all like the way they look. and we go up in there. Stay away from them places. Their interest rates are ridiculous. I remember watching Judge Judy one day, and a lady went in there. I think she wanted to borrow $25. I'm gonna tell you, if you need to borrow $25, find somebody and borrow $25. So, I mean, some of these homeless people got that on their. But anyway, she went in there and she paid $25. Give her your title to your car. I don't know how much her car worth, but anyway, she ended up paying them $500 and some dollars and still wasn't through paying it. So she ended up on Judge Judy about this stuff. That's crazy. So if you need $25, whatever, find somebody else. Don't go to the title. Just leave them alone. And their interest rate can be 300, 400, 500%. Stay away from that. That's just too much. Okay. I'm going to skip down a little bit. That's why I gave you all these handouts so you can read them on your own. 10 steps to financial success. That's where we want to go. Establish goals. That we talked about your budget and all the things you need to pay for. Take stock for your current financial situation. Okay, look at what you got, and any place you can get somebody to help you, like a financial coach like she says she is, or whoever. Get somebody to help me. I'm pretty good with finances myself, but you got to pay all that. You got to take care of all your bills at the same time. So if there's some way that you can alleviate some of that stuff down the road, because in fact I got one kid now, Destiny, our grandchild. I started a insurance policy when she was little, and she's going to college next year, and they just wrote me. Her policy wasn't much or nothing. It didn't even hit me at the time. But right now, I got to ask her if she's ready to take her $20,000 off her policy, or she can just take over the policy and keep it up. But it's because, what she was saying about investing in insurance, do it. Do it. I'm telling you, do it. Because you don't want to have to pay your parents' funeral costs or anything. And the government look at you and send you $255. I think she said around $15,000 or something. She said like that. That's a lot of money. So invest in it. I don't know if you got $15,000 laying around on what, but that's what it's gonna cost. And then the funeral people, they look at you like, okay, well, we can let her lay in the coffin till she just rot away. And that's how they act. It's like they don't really care. When my daddy died, I'm crying. I'm crying about this stuff. And that man, you think he care about that? What am I supposed to do? And then I still had to pay $5,000 and something for him. But it's because I didn't know. But here is 31 years later. Some of this stuff I learned along the way. I didn't always know this stuff. Okay, establish goals, take stock. Create a spending and savings account. Establish an emergency fund. We talked about that. Invest diversely. Okay, that's your stocks and bonds. That's where your financial person is gonna come in and help you on that. And don't be greedy. Well, this stock came up today, and you stick all your money in there, and tomorrow it go boom, and your money go boom right behind it. Okay. So you want to invest in a couple of stocks like that, but most of them are mainstream things. Okay. They just kind of go like that. So whatever comes to go, you'll have some way to be with that stuff. You won't have to all of a sudden up and dig a bunch of money. 'Cause I remember when she talked about that, my financial advisor came over and he said, well, the stocks went down and ours went down, but it was not that much. And it's because of the investments we had paid. OPM, okay? Other people's money. They took care of us, so we ain't have to do that. Let me see. Establish a good credit history. We talked about that. Delete your debts, okay? The sooner if you got a debt, that's less than others, try and pay that off first. Because why? The money you put in that one, you can put it on another one now and start paying that off. You see, you want to get rid of all this stuff. Under that, there are two kinds of scores. There's the FICO score and the Advantage, whichever one. And they show you what the ranges are and whether you good or whether you bad. That's on there a little bit. And we get down to one we need to talk about. She talked about this too, gambling. Oh, it's just $1. It's just $1. And if I win $5,000. That don't sound right, first of all. You pay $1, you win $5,000. Something wrong with that in the first place, okay? Now, I know of a guy one time, he won $5,000, but that's one person I know. And as long as this gambling stuff been going on, stay away from this. The reason they have this lotto and all this stuff is to get your money. You don't think they in business to give you money, do you? Some guy, he just won the Powerball, $777 billion or whatever. That's one person. What happened to everybody else? Yeah, 1 in a million. You're right, Sister Matthew. That person could go around and be happy. Everybody else ain't going to be happy. And the people that started this, they going to be happy because they got all the other people money. So stay away from that. Yes, ma'am. Right. Right. That's right. At some point, they need to take on this themselves. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Mm. Don't do it. Right. I understand what you're saying. The other side of that is you leave all that money for them and they go and waste it. Okay, they don't know how to manage whatever you left behind. Right, right. Right, right, right. That's right. Hmm. There you go. See, Sister Tank. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I say, see, with me, the other thing with that is you still grieving all this stuff. Your mama, your daddy just died, and then the insurance, the funeral people, they want, we'll bury them if you do this, and you got to absorb all this stuff that's going on with you at the same time. So yeah, if you can help, fine. If you can't help, fine too. But sometimes it comes up. Like what you saying, Sister Master, at some point they're adults. They ought to be able to take care of themselves. Something like I said with Destiny, she's gonna have a choice. She can either take the policy is not that much, because I think it's like $6 a month. Well, she's working a job. She can take that now and keep it going, or else she can take the 20,000 now. It's up to her. See? Yeah, right. But sometimes you have to do that because when I took him, he wasn't doing so good. So I took a policy out on him. And I think I took his out about the same time I took out Destiny. So they running the same thing. But you know, at the time he wasn't doing so good. And I want to make sure if we had to bury him or something had to happen, he'll be taken care of. So that policy is coming up as well. So now I have my policies on me. I think I have two on me. And the money's going to be distributed to my wife and the kids or whatever. They'll be taken care of. But like you say, you can't leave that with somebody. It's just hard. And the man told us $8,000 to bury my mom. I said, $8,000? Where am I going to get $8,000 from? You know? So that kind of stuff always stuck with me a little bit. And it's not that my mom, they never thought about that kind of stuff before, you know? So it's kind of hard to keep up with that stuff. All right, let's see if we can finish this thing. Let's go into credit cards. Yes, ma'am. But see that. But if we only stay in the Bible and learn the things of the Bible, what it will say. Okay, I brought a couple of other things. Number 7 down under ATM. We talked about that already. 2 banks or credit union. I'm going to explain that to you in a minute. You should not do your business with one bank. I'm going to tell you why. One bank can tie up all the money you have there. They can tie it up. One bank can do that. And no matter what you try, you can't do nothing with it. The reason was I had a business one time, and we were going to buy a keyboard, one similar to that. And we were looking around for the keyboard. The keyboard was $5,000, and this guy was going to sell it for $3,800 to us. So I called him on the phone, and we talked. And he said, yeah, he'll let it go for $3,800, but I had to send it. He wanted the money now, so I would have to cash transfer it to him. Wire transfer. So I went to the bank and told him we want to wire transfer $3,800 and all that stuff. Well, the next week or so, we went down to Brooksville for youth camp. And when I went to the bank, they have a Capital City down there. So I went to Capital City to take some money out, and click, nothing would happen. It just said that I couldn't do anything. So I got back and I found out it's because that wire transfer they did, it locked up all my money. My checking account, my savings account, all that stuff was locked up. I couldn't do nothing with it. So I went in there and talked to the lady. She said, well, you got this transfer. I said, yeah, I know that, but the money's supposed to be gone. And it was my business account. It wasn't my regular account, but it locked up all that stuff. So I learned right then, okay, we're going to take care of this from now on. So next time, I learned to have it at more than one bank or credit union. So if something happened at one place, you can still have another one you can go to and work there out of. And that's my reason for that. Number 9 says financial advisor or financial coach, just like they say, that's a good person to have, okay? Insurance, auto, home, life, we talked about that. Any of you ever watch these judge shows, you know somebody always come in there, they ain't got no license, they ain't got no insurance, and they done hit somebody, and then now they want the judge to decide. Well, the decision is already made. You ain't got no license and you ain't got no insurance. That's why you're there, because you don't want to pay the money you got to pay. And we've had a few accidents in our cars. I think recently, the most recent was the black Jeep. I think we were coming home. We had taken Destiny home, and we was coming back. And somebody up in front of us had a bad wreck. They went off the road and everything. So we pulled off to the side. And we were trying to get back on the road. And the lady in front of me, she had a Jeep too. And I remember, I'm trying to get on the road and get her. And she stopped, and I hit her. And I think it was $3,800 worth of damage. It was just a bump, but it was $3,800. So I got home and I got with the insurance company and they paid all that stuff off. But you don't want to have to be in your pocket every time. I had another accident. Let me go see if I can see Judge Judy. She can get me out of this. She might be able to get you out, but most times you got to pay that stuff. And I did have a license, okay? Let me tell you something worse, Sister Taylor. When I was, I had a Caprice Classic, and we was coming back from Mississippi, and I hit a car. He had a Mustang or something like that. Now get this, the insurance company would pay for my car. His insurance company would pay for my car. My insurance company wouldn't pay for his car, and his insurance wouldn't pay for his car. So you can't tell me they don't go wild with that. And I had to end up paying that myself. So get your insurance, and if you can do the what is it, total coverage, get that on there. Don't none of that PIP and all that stuff. Leave Mr. Pip going about his business. All right, let's see. consolidation. Some people think this is a good idea. You know, when your bills kind of get out of control and you want to go to some place, we'll consolidate your bills and put them all together. Leave them people alone, okay? I'm going to tell you why. First of all, they're in the business to make money. And guess whose money they're going to make? Your money, okay? So what they do is that you give them all your bills and they say, well, we'll pay this for your car, we'll pay this for your rent or your house or whatever. And they might do it that way, or they might do it the way they want to do it because it's other people's money, okay? And then you get all upset about it, but you need to take that over yourself. Just make up in your mind like I did. I'm going to take care of my own bills. I made these bills. I'm going to be responsible for them. I'm going to pay these bills, okay? I'm telling you, because the consolidation people, you see some of their commercials on TV. Don't trust them people, because their number one goal is to make money themselves, and that ain't that ain't our problem. Okay, you want to make money, but you don't have to make my money. Yes, ma'am. Oh, that's what I forgot to put on him. Let me tell you, you know what a reverse mortgage is, don't you? They make it sound so good on TV, don't they? Oh, you're getting old and you need something that you need to do this. And when you get old, most of us have gotten most of the stuff we want to get. But a reverse mortgage is plain and simply is, say you want to buy an RV, a mobile home or something like that. So you can tour the United States and see everywhere. But you ain't got that kind of money. So what you do is you take your mortgage, your company statements to your house, and they give you the money. The problem is that might serve you, but you might die, okay? And there's your house. What happens to your house? Well, you just gave them $80,000 so you can have an RV and travel up and down, but you gone now. They're going to take the reverse mortgage, they're going to take what's left over if you hadn't paid anything. And that house becomes their house. I don't care if you and your children and your grandchildren or whoever came up in there, they're going to take that house and sell it and make themselves some money. Why? Because they done gave you their money. So, yeah, stay away from that. Because what you doing, I tell anybody, what you doing is 80 years old to go out and get your reverse mortgage. Where you going to work? Who going to hire you? Well, think about it. They use your assets. So when you go in there and tell them, I need a reverse mortgage. Are you still working? No. Well, you got to have some kind of way to cover that stuff. Yeah, it's supposed to rain this afternoon. Last on that list is amortization schedule. That's the one I told Sister Tankard about a while ago. And it gives you how, if you want to pay something off early, I always have to tell anybody, if you go into something, if you get a car loan, ask if it's okay if I pay ahead of it. You know, if the bill is $400, is it okay if I pay $420? All right? Make sure, because most people, they want you to pay the money off first. So just make sure it's not one of them contracts where if you pay off first, it's a liability, okay? Make sure that's it, because then you can pay things off a lot faster. Our house was due. We had 30 years to pay on our house. But by me paying that extra payment every so often, we paid the house off in about it was like 15 years. So instead of having to pay that month every month, you save yourself a lot of money by paying off early. And the easiest way to do that, if you got a car or a house, I tell you, see what you take one car payment and then take a 12th of that. If you can put that together and say and get away with it, whatever that is, and you can do that, you can save yourself a lot of time. With a car payment, you won't have to make the last 3 or 4 payments. whether it's $600 a month or whatever. That's $600 you can have for yourself. But you have to make that a priority in your budget and do it that way. But like I say, I think we're supposed to be finished paying for that house this year. And we've been through paying for that house. But that's what the amortization does. In fact, down at the bottom, I think I gave you the list where to go. Because if you just put in any number, it'll calculate up for you right away, and you can see all the interest to that stuff. All right. Any other questions? Oh, I missed that. I'm sorry. Most of us in here have not started our own business. I'm going to tell you, that's a problem. Okay, and if one thing, thank you, Sister Connie, for telling me that. Most of us in here don't own a business. I'm going to tell you, owning a business is the best thing you can ever do. I'm going to tell you why. It's smarter than having 7 children, because you get a credit for each child. That's good for some people. Everybody don't want to have 7 children. All right? So the best thing is to start a business. I tell you, you may not know what your business is, but if the Lord's putting something on your heart, go ahead and go with it. And I tell you this, get the things you need for a business. Go find out. At the time I was thinking about a business, and when I finally came up with the idea, I went to FAMU has something called the Small Business Administration. Go down there and talk to somebody and say, look, I want to start a business, and what I need to do. And they're going to ask you all kind of questions. Because at the time, this was 40 years ago or something, 1991, something, when I did it. The lady's name was Teresa Zanu. I ain't never going to forget that. I went out and sat and talked to her and asked her what I need to do. And she gave me a lot of things, like you got to have a fictitious name. What's a fictitious name? Yeah. Well, unless you're going to call it Walter Cooper, you got to have some kind of name. If you're going to call it Billy Bob's Chicken and Rice, you got to have a name called Billy Bob's Chicken and Rice. So you have to fill out a fictitious name, send that into the state of Florida. And at the time, all you do was advertise it, run it through the legal section. It was on the newspaper. Run it through there, and nobody complained about. That's my company, Billy Bob. You got to call it something else. Then they're okay. You paid $50, and that's how I got a lot of sound production in there. Then I could go to the bank. The bank said, I think at that time, not a long time ago, all I had to do was to start a checking account was they had $200 in there, and got your business going. The other thing I had to do is, you used to have a business license. A lot of places don't have that anymore because they've done away with that. But for $25 a year, you send that in, and they send you a business license, and you can put that up on the wall because you're supposed to display that if you're a business. But do all that stuff and get yourself legally bound, okay? Legally bound, so how many businesses in Tallahassee, and how many people have things go wrong, and they send all this stuff to Washington, to the Senate and all that, and they make laws based on that stuff. So the laws that the big, you're never going to be a big business like General Motors, but the laws that they go by, you can go by too, and you can deduct all that stuff off your taxes and everything. In fact, I will tell you this, last year, I done got to the point now, I said, I ain't gonna need to run my business anymore. When I got to the business section, boom, it popped up. You don't have to pay $120. I said, wait a minute, now, I ain't even doing this anymore, and y'all gonna deduct the $120 for me having a business? Now, that kind of put an eye opener in me and made me think, well, see, that's why we need to have a business. I don't know what your business is. I remember this one lady I was working at a school, and she did things with dolls. I mean, she made the most beautiful dolls you ever wanted to. Now at the school, she was the custodian, but I kept telling her, you got dolls like this, and you need to start a business. Now, but she didn't want to start no business. She kept selling it to this white lady who taking these dolls, and I don't know how much money the white lady was paying her, but she taking the dolls, and she coming back for more dolls. So I guess somewhere between what she paid her for the doll and what she sold the doll for, the lady was getting rich off that stuff. So I'm just saying, you know, if you got an idea in the back of your head about running a business, go for it. There's nobody going to stop you. There's nobody going to stop you. I tell you, one time when I started my business, 99% of the people that did business with me were white males. Y'all hear me? I ain't have to go running through the church and tell anybody, I got a business up here. I got a business. And how I got it started was, it cost me $30 a month. There was Trans-Southern Hacker was the name of the magazine. I put an ad in there, $30 a month, and I got calls from all over the world. I mean all over the world. Norway. I got calls from Norway about the products I was making. Cause I'm one of them people, you know, if you get up there and plink, plink, and it sounds like a piano, I'm the kind of person who can make it sound like a piano, okay? But I would get calls all over the world about that kind of stuff. And I did that for a while. Cause in fact, I remember one time it got kind of busy, and I talked to my wife, and I told her, I said, if you just take the phone calls, we'll be good. I said, I'll pay you 20% of what the phone calls are. I don't know if she remember this. And this one guy from Houston, Texas or something called in. And when he sent the order was for $400 and some. She was glad to do it after that. I mean, I've had some big expenditures. I mean, big. I mean, it ain't big as like some of these companies here. But when somebody said you got an order for $15,000, okay, that makes things worth your while doing it. But it's because I sat down and I figured it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do. And it has to be something that you're interested in, but do it. I don't care what nobody say, do it. You'll be surprised. Because see, for me to make a product that I sell for $40, all I had to do is come up with an idea. Because you know how stuff is now. For me to make it, it costs $1 and something because I send it out on disc. But if I send it out on disc and it costs you $400 to buy it, that's a pretty good way to go. So I don't know what, you know, you might be into the food business, you might be into making dolls, I don't know. But whatever your interest is, do it. And don't let nobody tell you can't do it. You can do it if you want to because you got the Lord on your side. Ain't nobody else. Okay, any other questions? Just to remind you, Sister Mathis, I told you I took one of my sons, it was kind of iffy. Well, Christmas, he came around there, and he said, Dad, I need to speak to you. And I said, okay. And he handed me a gift. I opened up. It was a big check in there. I mean, it was a big check in there. Okay. So, I was real happy. Right. 'cause I wasn't looking for that at all. Mhm. Right. See, you just never know, do you? So, Sister Dunlap, you might have this to look forward to one day. You just never know. Okay, any other questions? All right, Sister Dunlap, I'm going to turn it in your hands.